Hi guys, and welcome to my review of the C Audio X TANGZU SHIMINLI Encounter Edition. Before I start, I just want to say that I'm really impressed with the way that TANGZU has handled this whole situation. They've come out with a statement for the public in general with concerns to this whole issue that was surrounding the driver used in the encounter. And in my opinion, they've handled things like true professionals. They have admitted that there has been a manufacturing mishap in that sense that they did not control things as rigorously as they should have, and that due to the high similarity of the drivers in terms of their external appearance, it was quite possible that a mistake was made, and that mistake was made. So to what extent the first batch of encounters has had that mixing and matching of drivers, the one that is the 1 year driver and the driver that was developed for the encounter, which is to a great extent based on the 1 year driver, just has a different diaphragm, is difficult to know for sure. But they've admitted to that mistake, like true professionals that they are, and they've also issued that they will be resolving that with future discounts or future help to those that were penalized by having the encounter edition not be the correct one. So once again, congratulations to them. This shows true character in my opinion, and it's a pity that some people are just quick to judge and to start saying, good for them, they deserve it. And that's honestly, it makes me sad to see that kind of attitude, because that's not something that we should wish upon others, because we never know what can be knocking at our door. Anyway, SHIMINLI Encounter Edition, sleeve, the usual waifu stuff. The box opens up. The IMs came over there. Brings a little cleaning cloth or whatever you want to call this. Accessories inside here. Cable, which is a very similar cable to the original SHIMINLI, as you can see, very similar. A little carrying pouch. I mean, it's a nice carrying pouch, very reminiscent of the pouch that you got with the shoe, if I'm not mistaken, but not my thing personally. I prefer cases, even if they're a little bit bigger. I prefer a case. The case will always give that extra protection that a pouch might not give in case something falls on it or something. But anyway, that's just me. Okay, nice selection of tips. Okay, so tips, good selection, cable, decent, pouch for protection of the IM when you're out and about. That's it. Simple, effective. $40-$45 depending where you get it from. It's within the expected for this price range and for this quality of a product. Okay, that's it. As usual, TK2, I've been using it mostly with the Shio. I love this combination, TK2 Shio. Occasionally I use it with the AP90, the 4493, or with the UA2, and sometimes I use it with the M15 as well. But these two just go together so nicely. I just love this combination. Oh, and I've also been using my Q11, which basically is the same Cirrus Logic chip. All right. SHIMINLI Encounter. I'm just going to call it Encounter for the sake of being easy. SHIMINLI Original. Same shell, mirror finish, painted red in this one. I do want to bring your attention to one thing, which is this thing is going to chip very easily. If you notice carefully there, you see there's already a small chip of paint over there, and I'm very careful with my IEMs, so it is what it is. Anyway, fit is fine. It fits very nicely. It's a relatively heavy shell considering it's just a single DD, but fits nicely. And definitely the one thing that you have to be very attentive to is tip selection. Okay. Definitely. You don't, well, it's always the case with tips, but you don't get the right tip. This thing is just going to sound off. It's you're not going to get proper bass isolation. You're not going to get proper tip to ear isolation and therefore affecting the bass. So, pay careful attention to the tip that you choose and make sure that it seals up nicely. I'm using not the stock cable. I'm using an XINHS copper cable. I absolutely adore this cable. Really, really like this cable. Not only because it's supple, it's easy, doesn't tangle, but it just sounds right. Again, let me just repeat. With regards to cables, as long as it meets my minimum criteria, I like it. And this cable from XINHS again meets that minimum criteria in terms of its impedance, in terms of its DC resistance, in terms of its inductance, and in terms of its capacitance. So, as long as that is met, it's a relatively cheap cable, costs $50 roughly. Why must you go spend $500 on a cable? Why? Because it says there Bryce, it says there Wagner's. That means that's a synonymous automatically with being a good quality cable. I personally don't think that, but I respect those that do. This works for me. Fine, fantastic. Okay. What have I got here in front of us? Well, obviously, as could not be with I've got the original. I've got the 1 year, the one that was the cause of all this confusion. And then I've got a few other IEMs which are at the price point and slightly more expensive or cheaper. We already know the 1 year is roughly $15, give or take. The original SHIMINLI was about $30. This is about $40, it depends. I've got the SIMGOT EA500, which you can get now for about $67, but usually it's about $70. So a little bit more expensive than, way more expensive than the Encounter. I've got the TKZK Oranos, which is about $55. I've got the TIN C2, TIN Hi-Fi C2, which is roughly $30. And I've got another TIN Hi-Fi product here, which gets very much forgotten, which is the TIN T2 DLC. Okay. And I'm going to be trying to position this not only with regards to its siblings, but with regards to these ones, so you get a better idea what this is. Okay, straight out of the way. Let's get this out of the way. The SHIMINLI, the original one, was a nice sounding IM. It was just a little bit too forward, a little bit too, that very abrupt early pin again, or not early, but that abrupt pin again made things shouted, made things shout a little bit, made things sound too forward, and it could get fatiguing and aggressive. It had a nice mid-bass thump, but it needed a little bit of a touch-up, a little bit of a tune to really make it shine. So this, comparatively to the new Encounter, is an inferior IEM, period. The new Encounter, and I don't know if it's got the 1 year driver there or if it's got the proper driver. All I do know is that when I listen to this and I listen to that, it's like I was listening to mid-fi and I've now put something which is hi-fi. So that sounds better, period, end of story. More extension, cleaner extension, a much more controlled pin again, which then doesn't make the vocals, female vocals especially, shout. Fine. Bass is well controlled, it's clean, it's detailed. It's also got a nice little thump, little bit less than that, okay, but because it's also been tuned that way. But overall, it's a better IM than the original SHIMINLI, okay? Compared to the 1 year, this is where things get complicated, because there are instances that I cannot distinguish them. I'll be straight up and honest. There are instances that I just cannot distinguish them. Yes, Shell does play an important role, but there are songs that I just cannot distinguish them. However, there are other songs that, yes, I can see that I can hear that I'm listening to the Encounter. What are those songs? For example, I'll give you the names, and when I post the playlist, you'll be able to go yourself and check it out. Hello Again from Paul Brown. I can notice that it's got just that little extra snappiness in the bass. Just that little extra snappiness. Is it huge? Is it something that many of you probably won't even pick up? Yes. Probably a lot of you will not pick up on it. Yes, I did pick it up because I was also listening to it in my room. I was listening to it under ideal conditions. I wasn't out and about walking with my missus, taking the dogs for a walk, or out, no. I was in ideal conditions, and I could notice it. I could notice that the treble is slightly more detailed than it is over there, cleaner, just that extra little bit extra. Okay, another song where I could notice as well that extra amount of just that little bit more sparkle, Swept Away from Carol Duboc. Again, I could notice that this is sounding better than the 1 year. So that's it. It's pointless for me to try and go back and forth here. This is the reality. It is a better sounding IEM than the original SHIMINLI. As compared to the 1 year, I will leave it to you to decide whether you want to get it or not. If you want to get something which looks much more premium, definitely. If you want to take the risk, at least at this stage, because you don't know if you're going to get the real deal or not, then just hold on, just hold off for a little bit and then decide. But compared this one, which is a first phase encounter, compared to my 1 year, which I have over here, okay, it sounds just slightly better, okay? And it's not with all songs. I mean, if I'm listening to some EDM or some pop, no difference. If I'm listening to, for example, Puerto Banús from Paul Hardcastle, no difference. If I'm listening to Sweat from JK Remix, no difference. If I'm listening to, for example, Riviera from Bob Zopp, no difference. However, if I put House of Groove from Eugene Groove, that there sounds just that little extra bit sweeter. Now, where will you perhaps pick up more of a difference? And this has to do with, I've got a few 1 years, and for example, this one here has got way more bass than that. So if you perhaps have a 1 year which is like this one, which is perhaps got more, it's the more bassy one, maybe then you will see a difference between the 1 year and the encounter. But if it's this 1 year, and I've got two others which graphed the same as this, if it's this 1 year, which I want to believe is the more standard one, the one that's the right one, not the other one which is maybe the fluke, if it's this one, you will not see a difference. I'm not going to say 99 because 99% sounds okay. I'm going to say 98% the same. Okay, that's that, period. Let's compare it now to other things. Compare it, for example, to the TKZK Oranos. The TKZK Oranos uses a CNT driver, okay? And this is going to sound weird what I'm going to say, but when I did the review for the TKZK and 10 Hi-Fi IEMs that were all very priced similarly and all were very similar signatures, I mentioned at the time that this was a good way of people being a little bit more astute in their hearing and trying to pick up the differences between the different materials being used. And there's just this tonality about CNT and about DLC, and about LCP, which is very common to them. You can pick up on those things. The titanium as well. You can pick up once you've really listened to a lot, and once your ears have been trained, you pick up on it. This particular the Oranos is also it uses a CNT driver, but it's been tuned in a more gradual pin gain. So it's hard for me to say that yes, no, I can pick up straight away that it's a CNT driver, and that's because no, I'm not going to say that. What I'm going to say is that it's got this tonality and this timbre which I usually find in other CNT drivers. Okay, it's got this tonality which reminds me ever so slightly of an Oxygen, although it's not as clean as an Oxygen. Oxygen is way cleaner than this. It's got this tonality which reminds me a lot of a Blonde, although the tuning is again different, but there's just something about it as compared to the Encounter. It's not as detailed up top as the Encounter. No, it's not. But it's got a more, like I said, a more warmish tonality. I would almost dare to say that this sounds clinical by comparison to this. Okay, this sounds very clinical, very clean, and this is more kind of old school sound. This is a car using fuel injection, and this is a car using carburetors. Let's put it that way. Okay, nice bass, lush mids. It's just the extension up top that falls behind the Encounter. So I'm not going to say one is better than the other. I'm going to say they are side grades to each other. They cost roughly about the same thing. Very interesting IEM, the TKZK Uranus. It's gone very much under the radar in my opinion. Very interesting IEM. Compared to the tin hi-fi, the C2. The C2 has gotten a lot of mixed reviews. Some people saying it's shouty and it screams and this and that. Again, this is one of those IEMs that really needs you to be careful with what tip you choose. And if you choose the right tip, it's going to shine. If you don't choose the right tip and the right fit, it's not going to. And in this particular case, using the medium-sized wide bores that you can see here, this thing sounds absolutely fantastic. It sounds very much like the Encounter. It just has a tad little bit more slam, okay? Little bit more slam, and it's got a little bit more detail up top. So you could say, well, I'm not going to say this. It sounds like an Encounter for the most part, with a little bit more bass and a little bit more treble. If that's your thing, if that's what you like, then definitely this is the one to go. Build quality is excellent as well. Metal shell. I mean, nothing that you can really fault. A $30 price. Very good. Very, very nice IEM. Okay. Truly very nice IEM. Compared to Encounter, compared to the T2 DLC. The T2 DLC is a better IEM, period. If the TKZK Uranus is a side grade, because it's a very different kind of sound. If the C2 and the Encounter are very similar, okay, this is definitely a better IEM, no questions. Bass quality, the quickness, the speed, the texture of the bass, the mids, the cleanliness of vocals, males and females, the tonality, the timbre, instruments, guitar plucks, cymbals, everything. It just does it very well. What is the problem of the T2 DLC? Fit. You need to make sure that it fits properly. And being this kind of barrel type, it's not always easy. It needs to be in your ear properly. This DLC driver that they used here is a very high quality driver, and it shows itself. It is genuinely a very nice sounding IEM and a superior IEM to the Encounter. Okay, slightly more expensive as well, roughly about the same price as the Uranus, $50 odd. Finally, comparing the Encounter with the EA500, although I don't think it's a fair comparison because the price difference now becomes truly significant. There's a lot of comparisons that have been done. Which do I think is the better IEM? The SIMGOT. End of story. Why? Simple. The mids and the highs on the SIMGOT are absolutely flawless. There's details here for the detailing of the mids and the highs on here is just incredible, in my opinion, and for what I listen to, it is absolutely incredible. I'm not saying that the Encounter isn't a capable IEM, it is, but it's not on the same league as the EA500 for me. Where is the only part that the Encounter can perhaps slightly edge out the SIMGOT? It's in the bass department. It's got just a little bit more bass, which can confer to some EDM songs and maybe to some rock a little bit more energy that this is not in its element and won't do as well. But otherwise, in terms of its technicalities, in terms of its ability to soundstage, to detailed retrieval, everything on the SIMGOT is on a different level. I'm sorry for those that I'm sorry in the sense that I respect their opinion, but I'm sorry for those that are saying that the Encounter is a better IEM. No, it is not a better IEM. It is inferior to the SIMGOT. So there are two IEMs here which are clearly above the Encounter, the SIMGOT and the T2 DLC. And then you have here two other IEMs which are very similar, the C2 and the TKZK Uranus. So that gives you an idea of what this phase 1 Encounter will be sounding like. It will be sounding like very much like a C2, a polished up C2 if you want that way, although this is more energetic in the bass and in the treble, and this is a little bit less. overall this is slightly more polished than that. Okay, but I wouldn't say there's a real clear definite winner. I would say again these are more side grades to each other, very comparable to each other, as is the case with the TKZK. But the TKZK does have a very different type of tuning as compared to its previous to its inspiration, the original SHIMINLI. Much better IM. I mean, the driver is different, much better, even, better as compared to the 1 year. Like I said, they only a very few songs that I see a difference of the Encounter, and I would say that a part of that difference is down to the shell. Metal shell will have different resonances internally, will make things sound different. So yeah, guys, look, that's it. There's not really much more than I can add. What I can say is that it's a good IM, it plays well. It's up to you now to take the plunge or not. Go for phase 1, wait for phase 2. It's up to you. Once I do get to phase 2, I will definitely review it and definitely compare it to this one, and we'll be able to then see if this is the 1 year driver that I have inside here, or if it's in fact the correct driver. Okay, I'm not even going to open it up precisely because of that. I'm going to leave it as it is. But truthfully, it does sound better than the original SHIMINLI. So a step forward has been done here. There's been an upgrade. Whether or not it's an upgrade, if you have 1 year, that's something that I it's difficult for me to answer. Really difficult. With all respect to everybody involved, and it's a difficult one for me to say. Yes, spend $15, but now you need to spend 40 because this is going to be better than that. Tough one. Anyway, guys, let me just show you now the graphs quickly, and then we'll carry on afterwards. We'll wrap it up afterwards. Thank you. Hi guys, and welcome now to the graph section for the Encounter. Straight away, you can see the graph. Nicely done bass, smooth transition into the mid bass, into the mids. I mean, really very nicely done in a mature. This is definitely a mature tuning. Okay, everything sits within a window of roughly 10 dB, 74, 84.1, roughly 10 dBs. Peak at 2.5k, and then starts drops off a little bit here before peaking up again for the couple related peak and extension past 10k. Okay, compared straight away with the SHIMINLI, the original edition. This is the original SHIMINLI, just a smidge, a little bit more of mid bass. The graph doesn't show what you actually do here. You do notice that there's more mid bass thump, definitely. But again, not a huge, but there is more mid bass thump on the original one. But this quality of the thump on the Encounter is better. It's a better bass quality, undeniable. The fact that it's been dropped here, this bit here, so we now don't have this. So 70, this 13 dB pin again. This 3 dB difference here is noticeable, and everything sounds way more balanced, way more coherent. Okay, and then although graphically it seems like they're very similar in the extension, no, the extension of the Encounter is superior. Okay, so that's that one out of the way. Compared to the 1 year, here is where things get a little bit difficult. Okay, let me just try and see if I can make the colors a little bit more alive. I'm sorry guys, I'm really sorry. Will it in green help out? Let's see. Yeah, I think green is perhaps a little bit better. Anyway, as you can see, same bass. The 1 year, I mean, it's like a dB difference, but otherwise it's basically the same curve and a little bit less extension past 10k. Like I said, it sounds very, I mean, it's 98% the same, honestly, people. The few differences that I found was just that little extra, and it's not even that it has more impact, it's just, and that's why I'm saying it has to do surely with the shell. It just sounds, the impact of the bass is just extra clean. It doesn't linger, so the decay is less because of it being a metal shell. A little bit extra cleanliness here in the upper mids, and definitely in the tweeter as well, a little bit extra cleanliness. Otherwise, the majority of the time, and under normal day-to-day listening conditions, it will be very difficult to tell the difference. Very difficult. Okay, so that's the 1 year out of the way. And now let's get on to the other ones. The first I'm going to show you is a TKZK Oranos. All right. As you can see, they graph very similar in the bass, but when you actually listen to it, the bass on the Oranos is fuller, is got more weight to it. It's got a different tonality. And then the Oranos does have this nice progressive pinna gain, peaking it close to 4, dips very similar to the Encounter, dips again and rises. There isn't as much extension as this here shows. When you listen to it, there's a little bit less extension or perceived extension, and I think that this is down to the tonality of the bass affecting how that then interacts with the mids and the highs. Okay, so similar as you can see. Next one, Tin Hi-Fi C2. Okay, Tin Hi-Fi C2, smidge more bass and more extension. These two things are noticeable. They are noticeable. However, if in the bass the quality and the quantity differences are maintained, the quantity is slightly higher, but the quality of it is maintained. So the bass of the C2 is very good. Over here, although there's more quantity of treble, it's not necessarily accompanied by more quality, and that treble can sometimes sound a little bit unpolished as compared to the Encounter. Okay, but overall, as you can see, very similar, very similar. All right, so that's why I was saying it's a polished up version of the C2. Okay, not a huge difference, but ever so slightly. T2 DLC. All right. Again, it's got a more progressive pinna gain. I would say it picks up at around 3, and then this is almost plateaued, drops an extension. It's got loads of extension up top. Honestly, the T2 DLC is an IEM that people should make a plan to point to listen to. Amazing bass, quality, quantity, both. Transition into the mids, top marks again. And then that extension up top is flawless. I mean, look, let me put it to you this way. I'm going to show you here this, okay? This is the SIMGOT, the EA500. The T2 DLC has that same kind of vibe up top, above 6K, that the SIMGOT has. It's got every bit as much detail, everything. And if there is maybe a perception of it not being as ultimately cleaned, it's because the bass of the T2 is more, all right? I'm going to be modifying in this EA500 that I have with a little bit more bass to see how that will come out and see how that sounds. But comparing the two, these two are amazing IEMs. Seriously, these two are without a doubt the standouts in this group, okay? And superior to the Encounter, both of them. So let me just put up the Encounter here compared to these two. The Encounter, when looking at this way, you think, okay, it almost, in terms of its mids, sorry, take out the DLC and leave the SIMGOT. You would say, as I've heard other people saying, the mids of the SIMGOT are a little bit recessed or a little bit, no. Graphically, that's not what I see, and in my ears, that's not what I hear. What I hear is a way more detailed mid-range on the SIMGOT, way cleaner, way more. Everything it's squeaky clean, but it doesn't lose any of that nice inviting tonality. So usually when it's very clean, it becomes very sterile, and for me, there's no loss of sterility. There's nothing sterile about how the mids are presented on the SIMGOT. If anything, if a person wouldn't know, they probably would say that this is a hybrid. That's how good the quality of the mids and the highs are. Okay, so there you have it, guys. Encounter, been surrounded with a few issues, as we know, but on its way to being resolved and clarified, like a true professional company should do. So now let's wait for the next ones. And like I said in my post that I actually did about I mean, these guys have earned, if I already respected them, these guys have earned even more my respect, and they will definitely carry on seeing my support and my money going their way. I mean, I'm saying this, and I have absolutely no invested interest. I wasn't paid to say any of this. I'm saying it because this is how I feel. I paid for my encounter, so it's this is what it is. I could not get more straightforward in what I'm saying than this. Guys, as always, like and subscribe. You know the YouTube gods like it when you do that, and it enables me to let my channel grow. I want to try and reach a point where I can maybe perhaps think about monetizing the my channel, and so it would really help heaps if you guys would just click like, subscribe, and show some appreciation, show some love, if that's what you feel, obviously, for what I'm doing and from what I'm trying to bring the community. All right. Anyway, guys, take care. Bye bye.